Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange. A very big welcome and thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me here on the channel this week, whether it's your first time or whether you have visited here before. Here on the channel you will find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet for the most part, and also sometimes a little bit of chatter about my day job. I run a small bricks and mortar yarn shop just outside of Cardiff in a small town called Penarth in South Wales in the UK. I'm recording this the day after I put up my last video, and if you watch that one you will have heard me talking about maybe making some changes here on the channel. And I want to say a great big thank you to everyone who has already left comments of support and suggestion. I think I've made a decision. So when I first started the channel, it was kind of a way of me keeping track of my journey of being a yarn shop owner. So I think what I'm going to do is split up the content, but not too much. So in these videos I will still chat about my works in progress, my finished objects, all that good stuff, and then I think I'll leave the shop talk to separate videos, and that's kind of just almost as a personal thing for me, because hopefully that will still be a way for me to track my journey on this wonderful adventure. And I feel like that got a little bit lost for a while. So yeah, as I say, these videos, which I'll continue to call my vlogs, will be about the works in progress and all that stuff. And then I think I'll do some little diary videos which will be more about shop stuff. I'll probably also continue to throw in a book review video here and there. So there might not be a diary video every week, but I will hopefully continue to do these videos every week, and then I can just throw the shop stuff in as and when I have stuff that I want to talk about. So I'm going to try that for a while and see what happens. But yeah, I just want to say a very big thank you again to everyone who has already watched that video. There may have been more comments by the time this one goes up, but I really do appreciate you taking time to leave me some feedback. It's wonderful to have these conversations with you. That being said, I am going to steam on and we'll get into the content for today. I have got crochet, knitting and spinning, and yeah, I think that's it. So I think I'll quickly talk about crochet first, because this week's crochet project is the same as last week's. So if you watched me last week, it will be no surprise that I've been working on my granny stripe blanket. I think I forgot to mention last week that this is a pattern that is based on some instructions on the Attic 24 blog, which is a lovely blog by a lady called Lucy. And I'm sure if you're a crocheter, you will have heard of Attic 24. Even if you're not, you may have, because she puts out a lot of lovely sort of free pattern content, and she's quite well known here in the UK, at least in the crochet world. So I picked this blanket up a couple of weeks ago. It had been languishing for a little while, and I started working on it again, and I've managed to put in quite a lot of work again this week, which I'm really pleased with. So here we are. I left a marker as to where I was when I showed you this week. So as you can see, I have added a good number of rows this week, and given the width of this blanket, that is quite a lot of work. I've left somewhere in here the original marker. There it is. So that is where it was when I repicked this up a couple of weeks ago. So I've pretty much doubled the length of this blanket, which is really exciting for me because, as I say, it's been languishing for a little while. And this week I have really enjoyed working on it again. It's been really fun. I made a big magic knot ball that I've actually worked through. I thought that magic knot ball would keep me going for a while, but I've used it and then some this week. So I think I've figured out, I haven't done any actual weighing or anything, but I think I figured out that each row takes about 10 grams of yarn, but I'll probably do some weighing and measuring at some point to figure out exactly what goes into each row. So I'm trying to use up lots of my leftovers and minis that are 10 grams or less, just to keep the colour changing happening quite frequently. So I have been really enjoying sort of working through this blanket this week, and thinking about some of the projects that some of these yarns have been used for, which is a really fun way to kind of revisit some fun things in the past, isn't it? So this one here is a cottony based 4-ply, which I made a pair of socks for my friends. This one here is a lovely yarn from Untitled, so the one that goes from that nice brown into those blues. And Helen of Untitled is one of my favourite dyers here in the UK, and I made a pair of socks for myself out of that yarn. There's some yarn a bit further down here, this pinky purple. I dyed that myself on a workshop that I took quite a few years ago. So yeah, it's just been really fun working through these. There's also some minis from friends. I'm working on a section at the moment of minis that were sent to me quite a little while ago by Ramona, who is Ramona Firehorse. She lives over in Canada, and we did a little trade a couple of years back now, and I put away, she sent me this lovely little project bag which says coffee, knit, sleep, repeat, with some mini skeins, and I put them away in a safe place, and I've only just rediscovered them, so I balled those up and I'm working through those at the moment. Once I finish recording, I am actually going to scout around and try and find some more minis to make up into a bigger magic knot ball. This week coming is a week where I am going to try and focus on some of my older whips, works in progress, and so this granny blanket will still get a little bit of love, although I don't want to just sit here and show you this every week. So I think I'm going to work a little bit less on this this week and this coming week, and I'm going to bring out one of my other whips as well, so I've got something a little bit different to talk about than just a granny stripe. Because as fun as this is, and as happy as it makes me, it might get a little bit boring for you if I drag this out every week. I tried to have a bit of a measured approach to my projects this week, and I was working on quite a few, but I set myself a little daily goal of trying to add a certain amount of rows to each project each week. So for this granny blanket, I actually added 2 rows to the blanket every day, which is why it has grown so much. But I think for the coming week, I will continue to grow this. It's still cool enough here in the UK to justify sitting with a blanket on top of you. So I think I'm going to try and reduce that to 1 stripe a day, and I probably won't show you this next week. Because it won't, if I do the 1 stripe, it's not going to grow significantly. So yeah, that's it for the granny stripe blanket, using up all of my scraps and leftovers and mini skeins. So I'm working that on a 3.5mm hook, and thus far it's been living in my oyster catchers bag, but it doesn't really fit in here anymore. If I kind of shove it in, I can just about close the bag, but that really puts pressure on the zip, so I need to swap this into a larger bag this week too. I think next I'll dive straight into spinning, because my knitting section, as is often the case, is the longest section, so we'll get the shorter ones out of the way first. So for spinning this week, I have been working on a couple of different things. So last week I showed you the I think I showed you, I was halfway through, or what I thought was halfway through, spinning up some hanks that were gifted to me when I was on a trip to New Zealand, and I think they're all New Zealand merino. And I had spun up a lovely bump of burgundy fibre, and I was working on blue, and I was going to 2-ply those together, but just as I was about to do that, I found, hidden in a corner, seems to be the theme of the week, another colour that was gifted to me by the same lady when I was on my trip, and it was a lovely rusty orange brownie colour. So I decided to spin that up and actually make a 3-ply. So here is the yarn that has produced. So hopefully if I hold that there, you can just about see all three colours. So there's the blue, the rust, and then the burgundy. And I think that's made a really nice yarn. I really like that. So it's gonna have some real interest as I knit that up. It's gonna be one of those really fun mulled hand spun yarns. So I spun the original bumps of fibre were slightly different weights. I think the blue was 10 grams, and then I think the burgundy and the rust were sort of 7 or 8 grams. So I 3-plied those together as far as they would go, and then I had a fair bit of the blue left, so I just 2-plied that with itself. There's not a huge quantity here, only a few meters, but I thought I didn't want that to go to waste. I have seen people who have saved all of their sort of leftover singles and made kind of crazy mulled yarns once they've got, you know, enough of their leftovers. So that might be something I think about in the future, because I think it'd be a fun way to kind of record your year in spinning, if that makes sense, or your 6 months in spinning, or however long it takes to kind of come up with enough singles to sort of ply together for a decent quantity of yarn. So I may think about doing that, but for the time being I just made that tiny little amount of blue in a 2-ply. So that was that for those two. And then I also plied up, I finished spinning and plied up a bump of natural fibre. I do not know, or naturally coloured fibre I should say. I don't know the fibre content. I got this in a little sample bag from the Spinner's Stash when I purchased a spindle at Yarnporium last year, and it's just this neutral cream colour, and I've been spinning that on and off for a couple of weeks to and this will mainly get used as the sort of beard and contrast for any future gnomes that I make. So yeah, that is the sum of my spinning for this week. I don't think there's anything that I left out or didn't show. I still didn't get round to trying Navajo plying, so my spinning time was a little bit limited this week. I tend to spin a little bit before I head off to work in the morning, and there were a couple of days this week where I just had sort of jobs to do that ate into my little spinning time. So yeah, didn't get as much done as I quite often do, although I have achieved a fair amount. My plying this week didn't go amazingly well. I'll show you here on the 3-ply. I've got a couple of bits where I have these kind of corkscrews that I didn't notice as I was plying up. I think because I didn't have time in the morning, I was trying to finish this one evening, and the colours are quite dark, so I was sat somewhere that didn't have brilliant light, so a couple of those kind of little errors crept in, but I think I can you know, work those out as I knit that yarn up. And this one, the natural yarn, it ended up being, I've 2-plied it, and it ended up being really loosely plied, so it's definitely kind of very thick and thin. Sorry, because it's such a light colour, the camera is trying to blow that out a little bit, but I think you kind of get the idea. It's quite loosely spun, so not the neatest, not the best, but I am fairly pleased with my spinning production this week. Finally on to knitting, and this will definitely be my biggest segment. So I've got a finished object to talk to you about, and then four works in progress this week. And before I actually get on to those objects, I just want to talk to you about the top that I'm wearing today. So this is a pattern called the Lee, and it is by Carrie Bostick Hogue from her Madder Anthology 2, and I actually knit this quite a while ago, but I didn't wear it in the end because the neck bind off and the arm bind offs were just too tight, and I thought I could live with it. I wore it once and it was just really kind of pulling in and choking on me, so I decided to just put it away and forget about it. But I was inspired by a lovely knit along that's being hosted by Mars of Hey Brown Berry, and she is currently hosting the Finally Fix It cal or mal, because I think you can make anything, so knit, crochet, all that good stuff. So anything that you may have had hanging around that needs some work to do on it to make it into the project you want it to be. So I finally got round to ripping out all of these cast-offs and redoing them, so they are much looser, and I've worn this top several times. It's just a cropped sweater with a slightly split hem, and mine, I didn't have huge quantities of yarn, so I have one ball of this purple and then a larger quantity of the brown. It's a Rowan yarn, I think it was Cash Soft Chunky or something like that. It's a discontinued yarn, unfortunately, but you can find all the details over on my project page if you are interested. And there'll be a link in the box below. So yeah, I used the purple because I was worried about not having enough of the brown, so I thought it'd be fun just to add these contrast details around the bottom hem and the neck and the arms. So yeah, I finally did that, and I have worn this several times this week, and it's really nice and cozy. And I put a picture of me over on Instagram wearing this. I tend to layer it on top of a long t-shirt, so yeah, that's really nice to finally be wearing this. Okay, so on to things that I actually did finish this week. So the one finished object that I have is a pair of socks, and these are the twist socks. So here they are. This is a pattern by my lovely friend who is Rosie's Fibre Adventures over on Instagram, and again I'll pop a link below. It was part of the test knit for this design. It's a lovely cabled sock. If I take one of these off the blockers, I'll be able to better show you. Down the front of the sock there's a couple of different cable patterns going on. So there's these sort of smaller twisted cables on the side, and then this sort of larger cable running up the middle. You can't really see that massively well, one there on the blockers. I finished the first sock within the test knit period, and I'd cast on the second, but then the pattern was released, and so it didn't become as urgent for me to get these done. So I finally got to finish these this week. They didn't really take that long at all. I think the last time I may have shown these, I had knit down the leg, so I just had to do the heel, flap and gusset. This is an Eye of Partridge heel, and then work down the foot and pop in the toe. The yarn that I used is from Wendy. It's called Wendy Rome label, Wendy Rome 4-ply sock, and it's the Rydell colour, shade 2001, which is quite a nice sort of heathered grey colour. And I use quite a lot of this yarn. I haven't weighed it, but I've only got that little ball left. This is a lot less than I usually have left when I knit a pair of socks. The legs are slightly longer than I usually knit, and obviously the cabling takes up more yarn, but I think there'll be enough left here for some contrast heels, toes and cuffs on another pair of socks. So I knit those on 2.25mm higher sharps. I can't remember the stitch counts exactly. I think you cast on like a normal kind of sock stitch count, but then you increase up to accommodate for the cables. So yeah, I'm really pleased to have those finished, and as I say, the pattern is now available over on Ravelry. On to my works in progress. So I might as well stick with socks. I've got 2 other socks on the needles that have seen some work this week. The first, I think, is a new pair. I don't think I've shown these on the videos yet. So these are a pair that I'm knitting for one of my friends, and I have managed to knit the leg of this sock. I showed these on the last video, the shop video that I uploaded, because I've been working on these in the shop. So it's an opal yarn from the recent Monet collection. This colourway is, I think, Woman with Parasol, and it's knitting up really lovely. I love these blues with the neutral and the green and the brown. This is a 72 stitch sock, which is the recipe that I use for my friend, and I have popped in a little bit of waste yarn. See that pop of bright colour there? So I'm ready to knit down the foot now. So this is the yarn balled up. I'm knitting these on 2.25mm higher sharps, just a plain vanilla sock, and as I say, 72 stitch count for these particular socks. If I go to the cinema this week, I will take these with me, just to knit round and round, see how far I get. I need to pop these in a project bag too. Haven't popped these in a project bag yet. So I will add that along with new project bag for my crochet to the things that I need to do once I've stopped recording. And then my final sock project is living in this fun bag that I made ages ago. It's one of the first project bags I made. There's no interfacing or anything, but I actually really like it because it scrunches down into my bag really easily. It's not the best made bag that I've ever done. The square corners or the corner bits at the bottom went a bit awry, but I still use this bag a lot, just because the corners are wonky does not make it any less functional. So in this I have my blueberry waffle sock, and I think I showed this last week. I just cast it on from some lovely yarn that was gifted to me by Caroline, who is Colourful Creativity, and the ball was already wound up for me, so I just needed to cast on and get going. This is a very early iteration of her pumpkin spice I think colourway. Sorry if I got that wrong, Caroline. And she said that this skein is not a representation of the colourway as it is now. She's tweaked the colour a bit, but she gifted it to me because she knows me in orange. So last week I think I may have just cast on and knit a few rows, but I've now made some great progress on the first sock, and I love this really fun kind of colour pooling and flashing that we've got going on. And I decided to cast on the blueberry waffle sock, which is a free pattern, again available on Ravelry. The marker here doesn't show my progress from last week. I am leaving that marker in. That is where the foot starts, and because it's a 4-row pattern repeat, I want to try and finish on like the end of a pattern repeat. So I have a particular sort of recipe that I use, and I usually knit, I think, about 67 rows for my foot. That's the bottom of the foot. So there's some more fun flashing and pooling of the colours there. So I'm just leaving that so I can count down the 4-row repeats till I get to somewhere near my usual measurement for the foot. I think a row or two here won't make a huge difference. I'm knitting those on 2.25mm Knit Pro Zings. I'm really enjoying the blueberry waffle. I haven't knit a blueberry waffle for ages, and I think the last pair of blueberry waffles I knit were a pair of scrappy socks. It just gives this really lovely squishy kind of cozy textured fabric, and it's such a simple pattern. So if you're looking for something that is a little bit different than your vanilla sock, but one that you don't have to think too much about, then I can highly recommend the blueberry waffle. So I've tried to, in my kind of rotation of goals for the day this week, I've tried to knit 3 pattern repeats on this sock, and I managed that. So yeah, I've made pretty good progress on that first sock. This sock's going to go away now for the week. I'm going to pull out my oldest sock whip. I don't have tons of sock whips. I have, she says, I've got 4 at the moment. So I'm going to work on my oldest this week and see if I can make some good progress on that one. 2 more works in progress left, and they are both sweater projects. So the first one is the Midori sweater, and I think I shared my tale of woe last week. I had knit quite a way on the second piece of this sweater and then realised that I'd gone wrong and had to rip a lot back. So I have actually now knit back up to where I was and knit on a little bit. So I don't think I do have a marker in here, but my marker I move up every so often because I put it on the front of the work, so I know which rows I need to do increasing and decreasing on. But I think maybe when I showed it last week I was back down here somewhere. Yeah, so I think last week I was way back down here because this is where my join is, and I'd ripped back to the join. So yeah, as you can see, I have knit on quite a way while I've been in the shop this week, and I'm now onto the decrease panel. So basically I'm knitting a big rectangle on the bias, so you start at this point, you increase up until you get to the width that you want, and then you start decreasing down to fill out that rectangle shape. This I will continue to work on this week. This is actually my second oldest knitting whip on the needles, and I think because I'm now on the downhill and my rows are going to get shorter and shorter, I think there's a good chance I might have this finished for next week, so keep your fingers crossed for me. This is living in a project bag from Lone Larch Designs, which I showed off last week as well. The sweater still just about fits in there. Again, it's very similar to the oyster catcher in that I have to kind of squash it right in, but if I do a bit of jigging and move things down and around and neatly, then that does do up nicely, so I think it can stay in there. And my final whip of the week that a thing? I think it should be a thing. Is living in this lovely tote bag that was gifted to me by my friend Lisa. No skein, no gain. And this is my Darumi sweater, and the Darumi is a pattern by Isabel Kramer, shown on the front here of this issue of Pom Pom, which was from spring last year. And I am also really close to finishing this, so I think last time I showed you I had just picked up for the first sleeve. Oh yeah, there's a marker in there, so last time you saw this we were up here. This week I have knit down one sleeve and finished that, bound that one off, and I have started on the second sleeve, so I am so close to finishing this one too, guys, and I think I am going to keep working on this. I think this is going to be my first focus of the week, just get this sleeve done, because again I'm decreasing on the sleeves and it's only a sleeve, so I think actually working on this one from here to here was maybe one evening's knitting time, maybe two because I was swapping around projects, so yeah, probably a couple of evenings work. So I reckon if I put my mind to it, I can get this one done this week as well. So ooh, that's really exciting. There might be 2 sweater finished objects next week. We'll see. You never know what the week's going to bring, so I will not get my hopes up about that too much. I'm not really going to say too much about that project. The blue yarns at the top are West Yorkshire Spinners Wensleydale Gems, and the grey yarn, the main body of the yarn, was a grey yarn. I don't know exactly what it is. I believe it's a wool, 100% wool. I picked that up at Wonder Wool last year from a company here in the UK called Wool Tops, and I got a sweater quantity of yarn for a very good price. I didn't have a plan for it, I just picked it up because it was really lovely, and I'm so glad that it looks like I will have that finished for this year's Wonder Wool, which is coming up at the end of April. If you are new here and perhaps you don't live in the UK, Wonder Wool is a fibre festival that we have here in Wales. Yeah, that is everything for this week, guys. It's a lovely day here today. We've had a pretty miserable grey rainy week, but the sun's shining today. It's coming up on midday, so I think James and I will probably go for a walk down to the local beach here, get a bit of sunshine and fresh air, and then I'm going to come back and make some American style pancakes and bacon for brunch. The rest of my day, actually going to be a little bit naughty today on the knitting front. This coming week I should be working on my older projects, but I'm going to spend today swatching. I'm laughing because those of you who will have visited me before know that I have a huge amount of whips on my plate already. I'm actually quite proud of myself. I'm down to 23 works in progress, and 3 of those are blankets, so they don't really count, and one of those is a pair of socks for someone else, so that doesn't really count. So if you take those out of the equation, I'm down to 19. But yeah, I have been thinking about casting on new things, so I figure I might not actually get round to casting anything on this week, but I figure if I do a little bit of swatching, then that will hopefully feed that little bit of my brain that's telling me to cast on. So I am planning on swatching for, oh god, a project. I don't think I've spoken about this project yet. James has requested a dude sweater. If you know the film The Big Lebowski, the Jeff Bridges character wears this particular kind of cardigan. And there's a pattern on Ravelry from Andrea Rangel, I think, who's kind of replicated that sweater. So I'm going to swatch for that. I bought the yarn for that a little while ago, and he keeps asking whether I've started, so I'm going to show willing. It's a 1x1 ribbed sweater all the way through with colour work, so yeah. And to counteract that, and so I've got something else for myself as well, thinking about swatching for an Elton cardigan. And Elton is a pattern by Joji Locatelli, which is, you may have seen the pattern, I think it came out last year sometime, and her sample is knit in a really lovely yellow colourway, and it's stripes of a 4-ply yarn with some mohair, silk mohair. And I have quite a lot of Kid Silk Haze left over from a wrap project that I knit a few years ago, and I've got all different colours left, so I thought I might do a bit of a fun rainbowy kind of striped Elton. So I have got some yarn. I'll use for the 4-ply sections, I will use one colour, and then I'm going to think about striping in some different colours of Kid Silk Haze to use up the yarn that I've got left over. I may end up having to add another ball to the colours that I've got, but I'm going to try and drag those yarns out of their hidey place and swatch for that too. So yeah, a fun Sunday ahead for me. I think I have talked about everything that I want to talk about this week. I hope that you have enjoyed following along with my creative adventures this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this week you get to do a few of the things that you enjoy. And until next time, great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.